I had the biggest activation of my life the other day, and I wanted to record it, wanted to get it down somewhere because I really do think that this has helped my embodiment of my remembrance more than anything ever. This is a huge pivotal point in my life, and I think I finally have the courage to embody these changes that I am called to make, that I've been receiving for a while, honestly, but I just honestly didn't have the courage and thought that I didn't have the agency or the, like, authority almost to do that, but it's like authority has been coming up a lot because the truth is that I pave my own way in life. This is my life. This is this physical incarnate experience that I signed up for, and nobody else can possibly understand it or see it in the way that I do because it is my life. And so I just wanted to quickly say the things that I've been called to do. These are the changes I've been embodying for 3 days, and it's felt amazing. I feel super solid inside, and I feel like my full spectrum and my stations of identity are fully coming into one place, basically, which is very, very exciting. And so, daily mindfulness. And let me just say, with all of these things, I genuinely believe that, and it might sound weird, but truly they will be, I know deep in my core that they are the answer and the solution to all of my problems, literally. And just as a quick little rundown too, I mean, I am someone who has suffered immense pain and neglect and abuse and loss in my life, and that has instilled itself in my body as chronic pain and chronic fatigue, head pain, migraines, muscle fatigue, muscle stiffness. And I finally realized what the true answer for me is. It's not, all the treatments. It's not the thousands of dollars I've spent. It's not the external. That's the thing. It's not the external. I know that this all has roots in not only my trauma, but how I live my life day to day because of that trauma and because of those experiences. And there are beautiful people on the internet that have and teach modalities surrounding this. And for me, just by simply, seeing some of their stuff and becoming aware of all the things that I have throughout my journey, physically, mentally, spiritually, I know that these changes that I'm about to list are the answer for me, and this is revolutionary, this is amazing, and I absolutely cannot wait to see where it takes me in a couple of weeks, days, months, because this is it, this is where I am what I'm meant to be doing. And so for daily mindfulness, that comes in the form of not only sitting with my own emotions, because I've gotten pretty good at that, but there was an additional layer that wasn't coming in for me. And what has finally solidified and what has come in as that final piece is to not go through life so hard and so fast. Like, why am I brushing my teeth quickly right now when I don't have to? Or like, why am I in the shower? It's the worst. Like, why am I scrubbing my body really, really hard? Why am I like lathering up my body scrubber with my bar of soap, like pressing down on it really, really hard? Just like everything is so hard. And I think it does have roots in my childhood experiences because, and I won't get into it here, but just that hardness, that like having to almost defend and protect myself at all times and not being allowed to express myself or be soft, and feeling unsafe doing those things because I didn't know how it would be received. And so it is sad, honestly, that that has translated into the treatment of myself because it's like, wow, I can heal myself by doing what I did not receive, being kind and soft and accepting towards myself in every way to reform those neural pathways and to realign all of the cells of my body and my spirit and just all of that. And so I, by, living so hard and so fast, like it's going to be an adjustment. I'm going to have to maybe start getting ready for something that I'm going to, or like an obligation or some type of responsibility that I have, some type of set structure in my schedule, the structure that I do have in my schedule. And I'll get into structure in a second, but recognizing that I might have to start getting ready earlier so that I can be soft and not have to rush, and not have to push myself, not have to be so hard and so fast with that process. And being able to take a step back and prioritize, being like, am I really, like, do I really have to do this today? Is this something that is set, or is it something that I am just sort of in a toxic work cycle? I want to get this done so I feel better about myself thing. And again, scheduling, I'm going to get into in a second, but that alone is going to be huge for me because think about it. I'm creating tension. I'm creating like high cortisol levels in my body doing that every second of every day. Wow, that's a lot. And so getting into, yes, the flow, the concept of productivity. Not going to get into society or anything like that because we kind of all know what's going on with that. um, and so for me, it's like I've tried everything throughout the years. I've tried, having a big chunk of time dedicated to one activity or splitting it up into like multiple activities, or whatever around, things like work, things like school. I'm not in school anymore. I've graduated, but knowing what my actual set schedule is and creating as much flow and ease and grace in between all of those times, because I actually have more time than I have led myself on to believe. Because right now, as an entrepreneur, I work a, independent contractor type job, and there are peak hours where I make the most amount of money for the least amount of costs for me. And so I know what that is, and those are part-time hours. I don't work full-time because it's not it doesn't it's a big math game for this particular job that I work right now, in between pouring into my projects, pouring into my dream career, and where I know where I'm meant to go. This current job that I have, I'm not going to be doing it forever, but that's where a lot of entrepreneurs start. It's like you have, the day job or whatever, and then the in-between time is the time that you dedicate to pouring into your projects. And so for me, it's like I know that it's not worth working full-time hours for that job that I have. And I have the freedom and the privilege to choose my own hours for that. And so being able to see the time that I have and flow, do what my heart calls me out to do, because I know who I am. I know where I'm at. That's the thing. I feel like, and there are more items on this list that I'm going to cover. What got in the way of me embodying these things is worrying about what other people would think about it. Like, oh, she's avoiding responsibility. She's blah, blah, blah. What? I'm not avoiding responsibility. I know that I am paying for my stuff. I know that I am taking care of myself, and I'm literally like every single thing that is still up in the air, like to share just a little bit, student loans and stuff. I am under specific payment plans that like cater to what I am making currently. And again, this position is temporary. I have support from family, from friends, and these programs that I am enrolled in. I'm paying off my credit card debt right now, and again with my student loans. Those are all federal loans in the United States. Those payment plans are offered by the government. Like, I am signed up for those. It is income-based repayment, and so that is all sorted. That is all sorted. I know that it is. So why am I afraid of people looking at me and thinking that I am somehow pulling a fast one, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? I am. I am. I'm in those programs. I have the support. I'm doing my stuff. I file my taxes. Like, I do all of that. So it's like, wow. I guess, to quickly circle back to that authority issues thing that I mentioned earlier, that comes in of like the projections of other people, the misunderstandings, their own fear, their own limiting beliefs, piling themselves onto me. That does not have to be a thing unless I allow it to be. Because I know who I am. I know my position. I know that I am doing everything I can and I am quote unquote supposed to be doing, you know? And so when it comes to the times where I'm not working, I'm seeing my friends, I'm taking care of my body, I am, bathing myself, doing yoga, exercising, eating well, and that all contributes to how I show up in the world. That's the thing. I used to get so angry and so sad and just like so riled up at the smallest inconveniences and those moments where, maybe other people weren't feeling their best. And so maybe from a place of hurt, they acted out towards me in one way or another. I would get so upset, so deeply affected by things like that. And it's like, well, this kind of leads me into my next thing of like, the only truth in this universe is that we are all one. That is the only thing. Everything else, all of us, we are all expressions of God, gathering of divine source, eternal living God source, the eternal absolute highest and deepest of possible, the universe, whatever you want to call it. And so, with that in mind, the universe and I are one. The universe and you are one. We are one. We are all a collective consciousness living seemingly separate physical incarnate lives. And so, we are all expressions of this divine experience, like this very human experience. We are all eternal souls living physical incarnate lives in, carbon fleshy bodies. And so there is no limitation. You don't have to claim what somebody else says. That's the thing. Everybody is living their expression and everybody is living what they signed up for long ago. And so they might have their life's work. They might have what they study. They might have what they believe to be true and proven to themselves. But you don't have to take that on as truth for you, even if they are, a PhD in this or this type of guru or whatever. It's like we can witness everybody in love and in grace and recognize like, oh, if that sounds cool, then cool. But to me, honestly, a lot of what I've come across various communities, I am no longer claiming those things, even though they served me for a while, and even though those people are beautiful and they are serving the collective in the way that they are meant to, and those things that they embody as truth help them and help others. That is great. Like, that is very much a part of this process. It's very much part of this experience and of the planetary ascension. That is amazing. But what I'm saying for me personally is that I have found that I am releasing so many ideologies. I am quite literally dropping a lot of stuff because I am coming back to my essence. I'm coming back to the things that I've known ever since I was a kid. That's the thing. A lot of inner child work has been coming up for me recently because I have always been connected to the earth. I've always been connected to the elements, to nature, to animals, to the other side. Even when I experienced the darkest times of my life, those times where I should have been provided for, taken care of, made safe, you know. And in this journey of mine as an adult, it's very much been a very long process of reparenting myself and recognizing how I have been affected by things in very developmental, like very essential developmental stages of life when you think about science and psychology and stuff like that. And with that in mind, it's like where I am at now, I have the love, I have the security that I've built over the years with tools that now I can feel free to release. I was talking to a friend the other day, and it's the process of, recognizing that the reins are right in front of you, the reins of like a horse. You're riding a carriage and you have the reins. They've been on the ground this whole time, but you just didn't see them because of the way that, you were treated. And you pick them up because you realize that you can, but then you have to have the courage to release them again. And so knowing and having that inner trust that the work you have done should be allowed to play itself out. And again, in the same conversation with his friend, we talked about, letting the program run. You are reprogramming yourself with every bit of healing that you do, with every initiation, with every activation, with every healing session, whatever that looks like for you, spiritually or non, technically. Whatever your life looks like, whatever projects you're doing for your own well-being, that has a ripple effect on the rest of the world, that has a ripple effect on your community, on everybody. And so whatever that looks like for you, for me, I know how my journey has been, where it's taken me, the points of study, the communities, the modalities, and a lot of it I am dropping from a place of courage, from a place of love, from a place of like, okay, I've done this. I trust myself. I have created inner safety. I have created stability. I have created joy, and being able to move from surviving to thriving. And eventually I will be moving from thriving to flourishing. Those are the steps. And so with that in mind, I would kind of like to go back to a more so like those are very big concepts, right? But one thing that I am making a change for in my physical, world, that is like more tangible, is no longer having a weekly accomplishment list. I had a weekly accomplishment list because I moved. I left an environment that was not, that was no longer serving me, that no longer serves me, and I literally moved across the country. And I was keeping a list, an active list, like every week that I've been here, to show myself and to show those around me, like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm not a waste of space. I'm not, like, that itself is very heavy. Like, oh my goodness, not a waste of space. Oh my gosh. Like, you could never ever be a waste of space. Nobody could ever, because again, like I was saying before, we are all living this incarnate life, this process, this journey is something that we already have written. And so I was keeping that list to not only like prove to other people that, I was doing the work, I was, worthy of being here and like all this kind of stuff. It was also for me though to recognize and to show myself like, hey, naturally this is what I do. I'm just writing down what I'm doing, because I think not only with my personal trauma, but with society at large. It's very productivity based, it's very action based. And with that perspective, it's missing half of the picture. Action is just as important as rest. Action is just as important as recognizing when something has to play out, or like, because the thing is that if we want to talk societally here for just a second, if we want to use 3D language for just a second, if you are going super hard at something in the physical world, and you're not taking any time whatsoever to reflect, on how it feels, where you're going, what the results are that are coming up for you from that work, you're going to waste a lot of time and a lot of energy when maybe if you're more mindful, well, no, not maybe, definitely, if you are more mindful, you will be able to recognize much sooner, like, oh, actually, this isn't yielding the results that are in alignment with what I had pictured, or, oh, this is making me feel physically horrible or mentally horrible, or I'm neglecting my relationships, or I'm neglecting this area of life, I'm neglecting that. Like, capitalism and society has placed success and happiness solely on monetary gain, and that is one of the most powerful distortions and powerful agendas of this modern world that we live in. Seriously. And so anyway, reeling it in a little bit, okay? So I am enough as me. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. I know where I want to go. And so trust myself to move in that direction, paired with that flow that I was talking about earlier. Paired with that flow of, hey, I have 5 hours before work right now to do whatever I want. And that feeling alone is amazing. And so with this stage in my life that I'm currently in, you know, I just turned 25. I'm not married. I'm single. And in a lot of ways, I am preparing internally, you know, with inner divine union, I am preparing for external divine union, aka, you know, whoever I'm meant to be with romantically in this incarnate life, in alignment with my absolute highest and best, and that infinite ripple outward in accordance to the highest and best for all. Because a union, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but a union is a team, it's a partnership, it is equality, it is this force, this energy that comes together that has an even bigger ripple effect on the world. It's like when you're with somebody, you want to be a partnership that is, you know, uplifting and beautiful and collaborative and deep and intimate. And that medicine that comes out of that is absolutely incredible for the collective. And so, anyway, with that flow of, you know, I have X amount of time before work or whatever, or hey, I have a day off today. Because again, for me personally, I work part-time. And so the days where I already did a testing trial when I first got to this new location of what the peak hours were for this job that I work, what amount of money I make for the least amount of cost from me. And for me, that's gas, and time technically, but gas mostly. Um, I have days where, you know, it's really not worth it to go out and work unless I'm, you know, saving up for something or I want just a little extra money or whatever. And so those days, all day, all day long, is just me. And so whatever my heart is called to, because that's the thing. Something I've realized in regard to this is if I have a project, a particular thing that I, you know, maybe a previous version of myself, maybe I'm coming into a different version of myself, maybe that version of myself, the previous version that I'm coming out of, thought that that would yield results, thought that that would be something that was really good for me to do, and that, oh, this is great, this is something I should do, and this will yield, you know, these kinds of results, I think, and I should work at it and really try, you know. If you go into this flow state, and I think this can be applied to anybody, that's why I'm saying you, if you go into this flow state and you are not called to work on that project, maybe you just needed a break, maybe you were burnt out from it really bad and you just didn't realize it, but if it never comes back around, if it doesn't come back around in that cycle, you know, after rest, after contemplation, after taking a break, when it does, you will have a renewed perspective and renewed energy and excitement for that thing, and that'll actually benefit that project. But as I was saying, if it doesn't, honestly, that was probably something that you aren't meant to do, or you were never meant to do it in the first place. It was depleting you and it wasn't serving you. And so then, with that mindfulness, with that flow in your life, you have the space to receive what is in alignment, what is actually the project that's going to serve all of you and not just serve, perhaps the very 3D, very physical world, logical world, capitalist crap. And so, because that's not the entirety of our experience, we deserve to have work-life balance. We deserve to live well in a way where our physical needs, mental needs, sexual needs, spiritual needs are met with our lifestyle. Because then what are you living for? Like, seriously, what are you living for? If not for health, if not for love, if not for true success, which is this holistic balance of all life categories, and not, because you could be making a lot of money and working, a bunch of hours a week, full-time hours, overtime, but is your mental health depleting and you're just putting it on the back burner thinking that it's going to go away? Is your family missing you? Is your partner feeling like they're not seeing you a lot? Are your friends, when was the last time you talked to your friends? When was the last time you went out and explored the world just for fun? Like, even if it's just like down the street, like, seriously, these are the things that bring you life force. And in turn, because our experience is not just the physical, it is not just this 3D world, that brings you all that you are meant to receive. It brings you money, it brings you love, it brings you health. Seriously, again, it might seem like woo-woo, or, it's hard for somebody who has, like, that has been all you've ever known, for you to hear stuff like this, maybe. But the intangible, I cannot stress this enough, the intangible affects the tangible. The intangible affects the tangible, 1,000%. And I have lived throughout all these years, all this work, all of what this journey has been for me, it has been proven to me that that is true for me. And I think that if that is considered by other people, they can liberate themselves and free themselves and fall into the life that is truly meant for them, that supports them and doesn't deplete them. This beautiful, all-encompassing, holistic experience. And holistic, when I say holistic, I mean it's spelled like WHOL, istic, ISTIC, because that is the whole of your life, the whole of your experience. And so, moving on to the last point I have here, is that, again, reflecting on where I am at personally. And honestly, I do think actually this can apply to everyone too. Your best life is inevitable if you believe it. And so with that, I can say to myself, my highest organic timeline is inevitable. And so if I embody that truth, what that has looked like for me, a way for me to do that, has been to have the language to show that I have everything now. And that's actually a concept that people talk about in, manifestation a lot, the law of attraction, that kind of stuff. But it took me a long time for me to reach the depth of what that actually feels like and what that actually looks like. Because for a while, especially at the beginning of your journey, or especially if you're somebody who has only been aware of the physical and of the tangible this whole time, it can be very frustrating and very, like, defeating almost to hear people who actively teach and practice, the law of attraction and manifestation, because it's like, oh, well, what about this physical condition? What about this? What about that? Like, what about this very real lived experience? Like, da da da. Like, that is all so valid. And so, the place that I have had to work through and work towards has been changing my language. And it started off as an inner dialogue. So if you're somebody who's listening, who is like, again, at the very beginning of what could be a journey, not even a spiritual journey, just like a journey in any category of life, your mindset and your internal world is everything. And so with the work that I have done over the past 6.5 years, very nitty gritty, very hands on, very intense in a lot of ways, very dedicated, every single day. That's at least what it's looked like for me. It doesn't have to look like that for you. It's going to be different for everybody because, again, we are all expressions of the One. We are all expressions of God and these journeys that we are meant to live and these life experiences we're meant to live. And so, anyway, for me, it took me a while to get to the place to deeply feel, actually, like inside of myself, in my core, to have and be able to change that language of how I speak. Because it started off, like I said, as me speaking to myself in nicer ways and kinder ways. And so now I've reached the place where I am able to talk to other people, because I would create limiting beliefs of my own experience. I would create limitation in general of where I was currently at from a place of thinking that it was realistic and thinking that it was honest. But the thing is that, again, I know who I am, I know where I am, and the people that I have chosen to surround myself with, they understand. Like, they are in that similar place that I am of embodiment, of remembrance of our eternal soul essence, of personal growth, love, and life balance of all categories in every way. And so it's like, okay, when I say, for example, something that because like where this very actively applies for me right now is money. I am considering, moving in with a friend of mine, and they told me that, I would be responsible for a third of the rent because that person has, a partner or whatever. I did some calculations and I was like, oh, that's $100, like that's hundreds of dollars a month that I would pay in that situation. Instead of saying to myself and saying to my friend, oh, I do not have that. That is hundreds of dollars that I do not have. Or, oh, that equates to the full amount of my student loan payments, or like whatever. I said, thank you for this information. We will talk more soon, because this is something that might happen months from now. And so I am not going to sit here and project that frequency, that vibration of, I do not have that amount to spend on rent a month, And so, because this very much translates into like where I'm at currently, career wise and financially, because as I was saying earlier, everything is taken care of by me, like, and I am one with the universe, so a lot of trust in myself and the universe comes into play, which we're one and the same, so it's just trust and faith in general. Everything, like every week, all of my expenses with the jobs that I work right now, especially my main job that I was describing a couple minutes ago, I make those ends meet because this is the position that I'm in now. And if I look back on the previous, months and years, those particular situations I was in also were provided for. And so who's to say that I am not going to like blow up on, you know, YouTube or with my spiritual advisory business or with Fiverr or with, um, you know, my other projects that I'm thinking about doing. Because those ones that I just listed, I've already started doing, or they have been established for a while. But there are even other ideas that I have on top of that as well. So it's like, who's to say that one of those things or all of those things aren't going to all of a sudden receive those eyes, you know, the eyes of like the attention of, you know, the collective. You know, who's to say that I'm not gonna, you know, turn around next week and be making, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars? Like, anything can happen at any time. That has been a huge phrase and point, um, and message that I have been receiving so strongly the past couple weeks as well. Because literally, you can meet anyone at any time, whether that is a new friend, a potential love interest, your soulmate, you know, like you, somebody who you can work with professionally. Like I have received, you know, one of my most recent, because there was a time where I tried to get into the very mainstream corporate fashion world because I have a bachelor's in apparel merchandising. My greatest lead that was close to where I was living at the time, that was paying well, and that was in my field, I received that as like a message from a recruiter on LinkedIn. Like, I received that. I did not go out and find it. I did not apply like for this position. They found me by me just being me. My profiles across everything, YouTube, Fiverr, you know, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, like all of the everything, it is polished. And for me to sit with that and know my worth and to know my value is so powerful and amazing and brings about a confidence that allows me to talk and to connect with people in a way that is genuine and inspiring. That is so important, especially in, you know, a career scope. And so to tell myself that and to show and to remind myself of that evidence, I was so close to getting that position, but again, with the things that you may or may not receive, you know, the efforts that seem to fall short, or like they seem to not, like your efforts that seem to not yield the results that you wanted or whatever, and then you have to have the mindfulness to change directions if you are called to do so, as I was talking about earlier. That opportunity was not meant for me. It's not that I wasn't good enough. It's not that they didn't like me. It is that it was not meant to be, because clearly I was meant to grow in other directions. I was meant to be in a different place. And now I am here, you know, all the way across the country. And, you know, if I received that job, I would have continued to stay in a environment that wasn't very supportive at all for me mentally, and spiritually. And I would have, you know, been commuting back and forth to this job and that environment, between that job and that environment. And so everything happens for a reason. Your inner work affects the tangible more than I can express, seriously. And so knowing that, like, just the fact alone, and even with, I'm a model, I'm a signed model. I almost got an opportunity with a large brand. And that was something that I, you know, made it past the initial cut, but then, like, the final round, they didn't end up moving forward with me. But the fact that I even got past the initial cut was so amazing, to be like, oh wow, this big brand, like, I was somebody that they are considering as somebody with like no experience, as someone who's brand new to modeling. Well, I do have experience in modeling. It's just not professional experience, I should say. It's been a lot of like personal projects, portfolio building for my friends and stuff like that, and stuff at my school that I used to attend. But yeah, professionally, big industry type stuff. The fact that, again, I was just being me and I almost received that is amazing. And so, with that in mind, kind of, so like that's a big thing. That's the mindset and the work and allowing, the flow and allowing me to just be me. Um, Kind of taking it back to the whole language thing. I am no longer going to be like, oh, I don't have the money for that, or oh, that's really expensive, or oh, blah, 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 blah. Like, just observe. Be the observer. Just let it be what it is and not assign judgment or meaning to it. And that can actually be applied to all categories, not just with money. Um, and so that and all of these things are absolutely huge for me. Absolutely huge because, again, with my background, with what I've been through in my life, it has very much been the opposite. It's been fighting to prove myself. It's been fighting to help people see my worth and to understand me, because that is what I believed brought me safety and happiness. And that is not true. That is very life diminishing. That's very depleting. You can simply shine. You can simply shine, and things and people are going to come to you. And if that's triggering for you to hear, or if that's frustrating for you to hear, I understand. Seriously, I do. Because I used to feel that way too when things like that were said. And so I invite you to, if you feel called to take those initial steps towards inner healing, whether it's therapy, a certain modality, a certain community or a group that you can talk to, connect with, be with, participate in a hobby with, whatever that is. I, with where I've been and the work that I've done, have gotten to where I am now today. And I pave my path in life. So I am saying right here, right now, that I'm no longer going to have fear. I'm no longer going to have the fear in the sense of like trying to think about what other people are going to think about what I'm doing. Because in a state of regulation, in a state of that inner trust and inner knowing, if anybody comes to fight me, like if anybody tries to like put their projections onto me of their own fear, of their own limitation being triggered by my existence, like, I will be able to kindly meet them where they're at, from that observer consciousness, from that place of observation and oneness. And oneness, knowing that they are me and I am them, that we are all one, just in different expressions and different bodies, seeing where they are coming from, and being able to stand there and honestly say and honestly express to the extent that I meant to. Something that I used to do is, really, really go all in and be very, very heavily validating myself and explaining myself. I'm trying to move out of that, because you don't need to do that. Nobody has to do that. You don't have to explain yourself to anybody. But what I'm saying is, if somebody comes up to me and again tries to project or tries to like place their fear upon me or try to judge me or whatever, I can confidently say that I will stand there, see them, truly see them, lovingly, non-judgmentally, and be able to talk about my truth and talk about where I'm at and what I'm doing, and knowing that at the end of the day, they can't control me, they can't do anything to hurt me, like they can't do anything to truly stifle me. And guys, if we're talking about like really extreme situations in the 3D of like, actual like, abuse or like physical harm or something, that's called a restraining order. please reach out to your local authorities in that sense, because that can also be taken care of. That is support that you have. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just, uh, you know, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of work to get to this place. And I do want to say really quick, wherever you are, whatever place you're in, whatever your background is in any way, if you're listening to this, I love you. I see you. You are not alone. Know that every step of the way, you are going to be shown where you're going next. Just take that first step. Take that first step. Lean into the support that you have outside of yourself and within, because then you can get to a place to where, like what I'm describing, of freedom and liberation, because you deserve that. You deserve that. And it's important to, because like I said, everybody's circumstances are different. We are all expressions of the one. We are all expressions of God. Whatever you feel called to do, lean on your physical external support in your life, and also lean on the universe, because you are the universe. You are the universe. I believe in you. I love you. Pray, whatever modalities that can support you at this time. I'm also somebody who offers sessions and things like that will be linked below in the description. Or if you just want to talk, like literally just DM me and we'll talk. Whatever you might need, or leave a comment down below with any questions. And yeah, I am choosing to be unafraid with where I am at now. This phase, all this work that I've done to get to where I am right now, I am choosing to recognize my truth, to recognize and remember my soul essence, and to act from that place, to be solid within myself, to feel my inner safety, and to be in that place of regulation, to be able to come against anything that tries to get in my way. Because with this remembrance, with this embodiment of the divine essence, everything in your path will be blazed completely, transmuted, blazed, gone. So, oh my gosh, so much love to you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad I could make this recording for myself and for anyone who's listening, because usually I make recordings like this and I just keep them to myself. It's like in Google Drive. But I'm thinking that whenever I feel called to speak, whenever I feel called to make a recording, I might just, make them for other people as well, like making them for myself, but then posting them and having that transparency, having that rawness of where I'm at and what I'm currently working through, because we're all one. Sometimes those same themes can resonate and come up within you as well. And I would love to be here for you, and I would love to show you that you're not alone, and to let you in on these processes, because they are completely like revolutionary. Not only for myself and my life, but for the collective, because how I, like I said, show up in the world and how you show up in the world affects those around you 1000%. It could be a simple act of kindness. It could be, an interaction, a friendship, a partnership of some kind. Like, this is real. This is huge. So thank you so much. So much love to you. I'll talk to you next time.